You're listening to the Back Porch Talk podcast. Danny and Jason had many discussions and debates on the back porch while making pivotal investment moves with assets. That's right, with trading cards. They welcome you to the back porch and right into those discussions about current sports news with a fresh and unique twist. So come on and join us. Welcome to the Back Porch Talk podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason.
Your co-host, Danny.
I want to say, fans, listen, we have a late night edition for you. And it's a full show. We got a whole lot to talk about. A whole lot has happened. But first, Danny, right into week 4 in the NFL where, man, there's a whole lot to talk about. I'll first start off with the Packers taking this L at Lambeau against the dreaded and hated Vikings. 31-29. At one point, Packers were down like 28-0, but they make a comeback. But nonetheless, man, they still take this L. Jordan Love comes back, throws for 4 touchdowns, had 3 interceptions, 389 yards, career highs in both touchdown passes and interceptions. But I'll just say this, Danny, Aaron Jones coming back to be productive, to be effective, 22 carries for 93 yards, gets a little get back there against the Packers. Packers got to go back to the lab, work some things out, and see what happens there. Anything on the Vikings Packers from your end, Danny?
Jordan Love made his return, and I was surprised, man, that they brought him back. I thought they would give him maybe another week, especially because Malik Willis was playing well, right?
Yeah, agreed.
It wasn't like he was a detriment. So I thought they would give him another, and then it was a scare. A guy actually landed on his knee in that game where he got up a little gimpy, but he came through and ended up with 4 touchdowns, man. And it was a good game. Minnesota made it very interesting in that second half, I'll tell you that. And Packers had an opportunity to actually steal that game. It ended up, I was like, once Justin Jefferson was out there grittying on him, I was like, but then the Packers turned it around, man, and actually made it a game. I'll tell you one thing from a Green Bay perspective you need to worry about is your kicker. That ended up costing them the game.
Yeah,
in the end, because those are points that they didn't get at crucial points in that first half and everything. So he missed a couple field goals, and as you're going, when these times get tight, man, you need a good field goal kicker. He may be cut soon if he has another performance like that.
Agreed there, Danny. And another highlight for the NFL weekend to me was Commanders, in particular, Jaden Daniels, man, who may be actually one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC right now. Quietly is kept, but I'll just say the Commanders goes to 3-1, and you have to watch out for Commanders in that NFC East division, man. Even though, yes, the Cowboys did beat the Giants, Cowboys are still kind of far off, in my opinion. That was a highlight. Another thing I got to highlight here too, Danny, is Chiefs and Chargers. Chiefs prevail 17-10 against the Chargers. Rice goes out with a knee injury, and that was a team self-inflicted wound, if you will. Patrick Mahomes throws the interception, goes for the tackle, and ends up getting Rice on the knee there. So I think they had to do another MRI to see the full extent here. Don't know how long he'll be out, but that's a huge hurt to the Chiefs. But, oh boy, there's news on the horizon about Devontae Adams. The Raiders have made Devontae Adams available for a trade, and apparently there are 2 teams that are on his list, one being the Jets, the other being your dreaded Saints, to kind of reunite with David Carr. I have to agree with some of the commentators here, Danny. Why would you go to, if I was Devontae Adams, why would I go to a couple teams that you just don't know about? I mean, I think at this juncture, I would want to go to a situation where there has been a history in winning, where it gives me an opportunity to win, not only win in the regular season, but to win in the playoffs as well. I just not sure. I just don't see this. I don't see the Jets being that team. They have too much going on with their head coach right now.
Yep.
I, Saints have been there's no signs, but I still don't think they're a complete team.
Hmm.
So if I'm Devontae Adams, maybe I look into the Chiefs. I don't know if the Raiders will want to go that route
Yep.
to trade within the division, but who knows? Danny, another highlight I think this weekend that the Baltimore Ravens beating up on the Bills, 35-10. Derrick Henry goes for almost 200 yards, 199 yards, 24 carries. Um, Thought the Bills was going to do something, but the Ravens showed and proved who they are. And then the Lions, 42-29 against the Seahawks Monday Night Football. Lions continue to impress. Right now, it's the Vikings and Lions leading in the NFC North. The NFC North is going to be a contentious division.
Hmm.
And I can see three teams coming out of that division making the playoffs. But Danny, what say you about the NFL weekend?
So Jason, just a couple add-ons to what you mentioned on these couple games, and I got to feature my Falcons. But the Lions, Seahawks, the Seahawks actually, man, their offense is really they have a good offense. It's their defense that failed them on Monday night because they put up 29. It was a good game too. Unlike that Titans Dolphins game, that was rough. That was a rough watch. And then the Ravens, man, King Henry opens the game once the Ravens got the ball with the 87-yard run. And we had talked about this a couple weeks ago where they were not featuring Derrick Henry for whatever reason in the fourth quarter. Someone got the memo and now they're giving them the ball. And the Ravens have taken off. And their defense is playing better too. So I think some of these teams, they don't have that preseason. So now they're starting to get their footing and get some traction. And from my Falcons perspective, we beat the Saints 26-24. Got to shout out the defense and special teams for the reason for us winning this game because the offense was garbage, straight garbage. Kyle Pitts didn't even have a catch, but we had two big special teams plays on fumbles. We had a pick six, and then Younghoe Koo hits a 58-yard field goal to seal the deal, the longest field goal in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, longest of his career. And it was a huge win, man, because that was a real physical game. And for the Falcons to pull that out where their offense was, I'll say, kind of sputtering. And Bijan wasn't, it was just no flow. So it was a great win. And then when you talk about Devontae Adams going to the Saints are a strange team, man, because they feature Taysom Hill a lot, where he had two touchdowns against us. He always, for whatever reason, he destroys us. But Derek Carr is not the full time quarterback because they put Taysom Hill sometimes at quarterback. So that I don't know how that would fit with Devontae Adams coming there. Obviously, it'll be a great talent adding with Olave on the receipt, and Rashid Shaheed, but and Kamara. So it'll make them a dangerous offensive team. But they still do they still do things with Taysom Hill at quarterback, and it's just strange. So I'm curious to see what happens. But it sounds like the Raiders are looking for suitors and see what kind of trade packages they receive, and when Devontae Adams will be on his way.
And now, Danny, on to the college football and where just want to highlight just a couple of games here. In particular, that Georgia Alabama game. Alabama was up 28-0, and Georgia roars back to take the lead. And on basically back-to-back plays, Georgia scores a long bomb touchdown. Then ultimately, Alabama scores a long touchdown bomb. And I just have to say, Williams, man, this kid, 17-year-old kid, continues to impress. Who scores the game-winning touchdown, man? This was a great game, man. And catapulted Alabama into the number one ranking position ahead of the Texas Longhorns. I believe you can see the likes of Georgia, Alabama again, whether it's in the SEC championship or even in the playoffs. But man, what a game! What a treat on Saturday night to witness. What say you about that Georgia Alabama game, Danny?
Alabama could have. I thought they were just gonna blow the doors off Georgia, and then Georgia kept creeping back in the game. So they didn't bow down, and they put it back on Alabama. Luckily, Alabama pulled this one out, man. That would have been an epic upset. Even though Georgia was ranked higher, that would have been epic for them to lose based on the way they played in that first half. So it was, like you said, a great game. Carson Beck was under extreme pressure, and he ended up with over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. But that first half, he looked pedestrian. Alabama's defense was all over him, man, and he was rushing, and he wasn't in the flow. So he got in the flow in the second half and actually made it a game. And I was actually about to turn it off at the beginning of the third quarter, and I was like, no, let me just watch a little bit more, and then I ended up having to stay up late to watch all the way to the end.
And I gotta also highlight this Colorado UCF game, even though both teams aren't ranked. Highlighting this because man, Colorado goes into UCF on even a weather delay to Hurricane Helene, and this is give a huge shout out, and we're sending our positive energy and vibes and prayers to those impacted by Hurricane Helene. But Colorado goes ahead and beats UCF 48-21 behind Drew Sanders 28-35 for 35, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. Let me just say this moves Colorado to 4-1. They need 2 more wins to ultimately get to a bowl game. And this is think about where this team was not last year, but even the year before, where they only won 1 game the year before. Last year, I want to say they won 3 games. They've already beat out last year's victory total
Mm-hmm.
or tied it.
Yep.
2 more wins gets them again to the bowl game. So got to keep an eye on that because not only do you have a potential Heisman Trophy winner in Travis Hunter, but you also have a top possibly lottery pick here in Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback. So eyes will continue to be on the Colorado Buffaloes. What say you about the rest of the college football weekend, Danny?
Well, Jason, Wisconsin, the Badgers went and visited USC this weekend and actually were winning 21-10 in the third quarter, and the wheels fell straight off the car. They just uh-oh, what happened?
Listen, fans, breaking news, breaking news. End of the eighth inning in a must-win game for the Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee Brewers are now winning 5-3.
Okay, let's go, Brew Crew.
We're winning 5-3, Danny. We were down 3-1. Trios seems to hit another home run in the eighth. 2 more runs comes in. Brewers are now with they're leading 5-3 going into the ninth in a must-win game to save their season. We'll continue to monitor this, but this is exciting news.
Yes, yes. They gotta win tonight, man.
You gotta win
You
tonight,
can't get
man.
swept by the Mets.
Come on, man.
Not after them coming off a doubleheader.
The last week, man.
I know.
Come on, Brewers. Come on, y'all. And this is the best out of 3.
Yes.
So we gotta win this one, man.
Mm-hmm.
But what say you about the rest of the college football weekend?
Oh, okay. Oh, man, that's great news, man. I'll get interrupted by that all night long. I was just saying, man, the Badgers were beating the Trojans, and the Trojans came back and destroyed the Badgers in the second half, ended up winning 38-21. Huge loss for Madison, man, because I think this would have been a big momentum builder for the team, but USC decided to turn it on in the second half. That defense got stingy, and the offense came to play. So tough loss by the Badgers. And another game, it was a good game, was the Kentucky Ole Miss game. Ole Miss was undefeated at home, and Kentucky ended up beating them. And there was a fluke play towards the end of the game where Kentucky was going in to score. Running back was running in. He fumbles, ends up in the tight end's hands. He runs it in, and then Ole Miss missed the field goal at the end of the game. He shanked it. Great game, tough loss for Ole Miss, but great win by Kentucky.
And Danny, just as we talked about baseball, let's move on to basketball, and where there was a mega trade this close to training camp. Minnesota Timberwolves and the York Knicks decided to do a deal, and where Karl Anthony-Towns now is a New York Knick, and we have to say that Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo are now Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm still kind of torn on this trade, Danny. I think I see more of the positive for Minnesota because you got two players. You now don't have to worry about Twin Towers, if you will. You now don't have to worry about who's going to do what on the floor. Rudy Gobert will continue to get exploited. I think everybody knows his weakness now. I think, especially in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But I think with Julius Randle, I think he adds a little more grit and grind. DiVincenzo gives them another person right off the bench who can shoot, who can defend at the wing position. I think this is a good look for Minnesota. I think for the New York Knicks, I think in Cat you get smile shy shooting, you get a big, but is he going to really truly play a big? Marcus Robinson is not scheduled to come back until possibly December, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So you try to fill that void, fill that gap there. I don't know. This is going to be interesting. I actually wanted to see the Villanova Mafia play together, but we don't even get a chance to see them play one game together. But I think the Knicks needed to make a move on the heels of Robinson not, being there for a good period of time. I think this bodes well for the Bucks. I think it bodes well for the Sixers against the Knicks. I think this kind of lessens the bench play for the Knicks, but we'll see. And I'm going to say this, man, Cat, I need to look at the stats here, but I can't remember the last time Cat played over like 60 some odd games in a season. So I'm just kind of curious how this is going to work. We'll see. What say you, Danny, about this trade?
Yeah, Jay, this one caught me off guard. I know there's been rumors in the past with Cat going to the Knicks. Actually, last offseason, there were rumors. But for this to happen, it was definitely a surprise. What I'm looking at in this deal is Julius Randle. So in New York, there are issues with ball. He's ball dominant, put it like that. Mm-hmm. How does that fit with Ant Edwards and the Timberwolves in their current roster? I think getting DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, like you said, you get two quality players at that. I'm just more curious on how Julius Randle fits with Anthony Edwards and how that flows. Because when Julius Randle was healthy and with Brunson wasn't that player until Julius Randle got hurt. I wanted to see the Villanova Wildcats together too, man. That was the only disappointing thing about this trade. I wanted to see them roll together and kind of how they would play the season out. But yeah, and that adds in case Ant Edwards gets hurt. DiVincenzo is not Ant Edwards, but he's not that far behind from a talent perspective where he can fill in, from a starter's perspective. So I think it's a good move by the Timberwolves. And because Cat was always that one that he just, I don't know, he just didn't fulfill the potential there. So maybe New York, that changes things, getting the bright lights and see what happens instead of, playing a small Minneapolis, you go into a big town, New York City. So very curious, but it's good for the NBA, man. I'm always looking for a good trade, and we'll see how these teams pan out.
And just the last few seasons for Karl Anthony-Towns, he played 62 games last year. The year before that, 29 games. The year before that, 74 games. Year before that, 50 games. Year before that, 35 games. And so really one, two, three, four, for the past 5 years, I mean, it's been slim pickings. So, and I think that's because of injury. So we'll see what happens this year. But yeah, I just don't think his defensive prowess is there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what Tibbs does with this group.
Yes.
You're going to run them into the ground because now your bench is not as thick, if you will. So this is going to be really interesting, really interesting. And breaking news. We do have a final in the Milwaukee Brewers game, 5-3 Milwaukee Brewers. They take it into game 3, the deciding game. Listen, I'm just happy that the Brewers won one game.
Yes.
And just to let you all know too, man, the Milwaukee Brewers had 40,000 fans in the stands last night. I would say, venture to say, they had another 40,000 in the stands tonight. When you think about the number of fans I just mentioned, times what, I don't know how much tickets are nowadays, $30 a ticket, maybe, at least, but it's a playoff game, so maybe more.
Yeah, they more than that.
You're looking at well over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So if for a small market team to have that many fans in the stands in the playoff, ticket prices go up a little bit, that's a significant amount of revenue. Just like how I mentioned in the NBA, what did the Golden State Warriors do? They had multiple deep playoff runs, and they were able to build a beautiful arena.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing holds true for any sport. If you make that deep playoff run and you fill the stands, that's some more money. So just had to mention that, Danny.
Yeah.
The Brewers prevail 5-3. Next game, I want to say, I would probably say tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
And I want to say that's going to be in Milwaukee too. Yeah,
Yes.
it's going to be in Milwaukee. I heard something where the Mets had packed 2 weeks worth of clothes because last week they were in Milwaukee and had to go down to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And then this week, of course, back to Milwaukee. And they're looking to move on. The winner of this series plays the Phillies. And here's the interesting thing. We just beat the Phillies in the series.
Yep.
So the Brewers has a great chance, man. We have a great chance, but let's see where this goes. And for our friends who are rooting for the New York Mets, we shall see. We shall see. Then we lost some greats, and one great, John Amos, who played obviously James from Good Times, but he also played Kunta Kinte. He played Mr. McDowell and Coming to America. I mean, he played so many great things, man, and he passes away, I believe, at the age of 84.
Mm-hmm.
And another person who we lost was that of Pete Rose. Pete Rose also passes away. Old Charlie Hustle. And Danny, I believe, yes, it's controversial whether or not he should be in the Hall of Fame. But you can't deny his on-field hustle. I mean, golly, you talking about the number of hits, first in hits. I mean, he broke records. He has championships, MVPs. I mean, he is a baseball player. And we can't forget Dikembe Mutombo. You were so right, Danny. Can't forget Dikembe Mutombo, who passes away at the age of 58 due to brain cancer. Dikembe Mutombo, man, who can never forget the finger wave, but then also the things he's done just in communities, not only here, but also in Africa, man. Has a hospital, built a hospital and everything, man. Just a true humanitarian. And so he also passes away. So to him, rest in peace. And then also to the family, our condolences and well wishes.
Thank you for joining us at Back Porch Talk Podcast. You can also join us on Twitter by tweeting us at @back_podcast. For more information, you can go to our website, which is backporchtalkpodcast.com. You can also email us at backporchtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and remember that there's enough hate in the world, so go ahead and spread a little love.